Well, our speaker today is new to Adam as far as being a speaker. She hasn't talked here before. And I think my first time of meeting her was at the last full moon meditation. And she's one of these, younger new people coming to the events that we have. And so it was really exciting. And then somebody
We
said,
need
well,
the young ones.
yes. And somebody said, she's a chiropractor and works with alternative type medicines. And I'm going, So we went over and chatted and, started having a very interesting conversation. So invited her to speak, and here she is today. So I'd like to go ahead and just read her short bio before she starts. Her topic's perfect because it's talking about how to relieve stress and relax. And in this day and age, it seems like we need all the help we can get to relieve stress and relax. So Dr. Morgan Towslee has been a chiropractor for 6 years and has seen the astounding differences it can make in people's stress levels. She decided to move to Alaska and open her own practice. She is a loving mother of a new baby boy and practices the art of juggling motherhood, her career, family, and a social life. Well, welcome to that. Anyway, it's so amazing to be able to understand how the foundation, chiropractic care is so much more than just adjusting your bones, and just the fact of how your foundation in your body can lead to the foundation in your life. So please give Dr. Morgan Towslee a big
Well, hello everybody. I am super honored to be here. My first time here was, like Dawn said, it was for the full moon meditation. And I know that there were 2-hour-long meditations. Before going into it, me being a toddler mom, I was like, there's no way I'm going to stay for 2 hours. That's crazy. But I did the first meditation, and it felt like it was just exactly like what my soul needed. It was like, my husband's got my son. They're fine. I'm good. And I stayed for the second one, and it was just awesome. And a big part of that was the energy of the room and what all of you bring to it. I told Amy, that's my friend Amy, she's a chiropractor too, you guys probably know her already. But she was the one that invited me, and I told her after, I felt like I found my people, people that care deeply about spirituality and just, mental health and that sort of thing. So when Dawn had asked me if I would be interested in speaking, I thought it was going to be, 15 or 20 minutes. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. Easy. And I committed, and then she told me it was going to be an hour. And at first I was like, I don't know if I could talk for that long. Like, what do I have to share for an hour? But then when I started kind of writing down my thoughts about this topic, it just really started to flow, and it's something that's just really important to me and that I've practiced through and through my life. I think we can all agree we've had stress at some point in our lives, right? And so as that comes up, just finding ways to be able to regulate your nervous system and kind of not let it put you into chronic fight or flight mode. So that's what my topic's going to be today. And we'll kind of touch base on a few different ways that we can do that. So chiropractic care being a big one of those, and we'll touch on that too. I wanted to start with telling you guys my story a little bit and kind of what got me to where I'm at now. So this is Leavenworth, Washington. Has anybody been there?
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's where I grew up. A small town of about 2,000 people. Really, really tight-knit community. Small town feel. You're walking on the street, people say hi to you, they wave, it's just the best feeling ever. I grew up there. I grew up just with my dad and my sister. So that's me when I was in kindergarten, and that's my sister. My dress was too tight, so that's why I had that face on. But
it looks like a look of determination.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dawn. I'll take that. But one of the reasons why mental health is so important to me, I'm going to get kind of deep with you guys for a second here. My mom committed suicide when I was 2 months old, and it was because she had horrible postpartum depression. She had bipolar before that, and I grew up with my sister and my dad mostly. My dad had addiction problems. He's doing great now, so I'm super grateful for that. We have a great relationship. But part of why I've always been so caring about my own mental health is knowing that that's what my mom went through. So me having my own baby and, postpartum and all of that has made me extra attuned to what I'm feeling, because I, would never want to go down that road myself. So more about my story. So sports were really my escape from my home life. I did volleyball, and I actually competitively jump roped, which is pretty cool. Not a lot of people do that. If you guys want to see some tricks sometimes, I'll show you. But that was just kind of like the biggest escape for me, and the biggest thing that I was passionate about growing up. So health and fitness. And that made me kind of know what I wanted to do generally. So when I went to college, I went to Washington State University, and I thought that I wanted to do nursing school. So I was starting to take prereqs and everything for that. And then one of my sorority sisters had to go in the hospital for Crohn's disease. I went to visit her, and the nurses were putting a feeding tube in, and I fainted. So then I kind of knew that I should probably not do that. Nurses, bless their hearts, they do stuff that's way more faint-worthy than that, right? So I went back to my academic advisor at Wazoo, and I was like, I don't think I can do that, So I started to explore other options for ways that you could still help people without, doing stuff like that. And then I got a degree in kinesiology, which is like exercise science, human movement, that sort of thing. From there, most people will either do like physical therapy, athletic training, or chiropractic. So I thought that I was going to do PT at first, physical therapy. I did some like volunteering and shadowing around Leavenworth, and I just didn't love it. I know that it's great, and I've got friends that are PTs and everything, but it just didn't feel like it was quite exactly what I was supposed to be doing. So then, kind of crazy, Bobby, right, was your name? Bobby. So as Bobby was kind of talking about how the universe has your back, and it'll just kind of show you the right way, and it might not always be what you think, right? So I had never even heard of chiropractic care before this next part of the story. So one of my friends invited me to this career night where the school that I ended up going to, it's called Life Chiropractic College West. It's a great school. But they held a career night in Seattle where they had the president of the school there and then a few other speakers, and they were just talking about chiropractic care and different, ways that it's helped people. And I had goosebumps the whole time. And I just felt like this is what I have to do. And I had never been adjusted before, which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
So I went out on a limb. I applied to school. I got in. I moved to California. Reverse a little bit, I met my husband in college, so college sweethearts. He went to law school, so we did long distance. Me going to a school again where I had never even been adjusted before. So I really went out on a limb and tried to, follow my heart and what the universe told me. And and I moved down there, and it was awesome. So that's my husband and I when we first met, and then that's us like a few months ago. So that's our little guy. His name is Jude. So super cute. So while I was in school, I got to do a lot of really cool things. One of my favorite things was I went on a service trip to Mumbai, to India. So I was there for a week, adjusted hundreds of people that wouldn't have access to chiropractic care otherwise. There was a group of probably about 70 of us that went. Students had to be selected from clinic to go, and then a lot of doctors there too. So that was super awesome. One of the coolest experiences that I'll always remember, I had this really elderly Indian man get adjusted, and that's my translator right there. So he was the one that was relaying the story to me. He had told us that he didn't have a day without pain for 30 years with his lower back. So he came in and he was kind of, like this on the table. He was wearing kind of like beat up shorts and, just didn't look well. And he laid down and I adjusted him. And the next day he came back standing straight up and crying, and with a gift of half-eaten crackers and half of a water bottle for me. And he said that he woke up without pain for the first time in 30 years. So that was one of the coolest experiences of my life, you know, and yeah, I'm just really, really grateful that I get to do what I do. So more pictures of India. They have tons of cows everywhere. It's kind of a fun fact. Pretty cool. Made friends with one of them. And then graduated from Life West. I moved to Seattle and I worked for Dr. Devine. He's been a chiropractor in Seattle for about 30 years, so I learned a lot, you know, honed my skills with him. A big part of what I do too is soft tissue work, so kind of digging into the muscles as well. And that's an extreme version of it there that you can see. So I don't do that to everybody, but that's a bodybuilder that, yeah, just needed some help getting those shoulders moving. So, yeah, and then after I'd been there for about a couple years is when I started to realize that I really loved working with pregnant women. So that's something that I specialize in. I worked with 5 men at my clinic in Seattle. This is me and 5 male doctors. And just by happenstance, all the pregnant moms started to come to me. And, and I just kind of realized, like, going into it, I didn't think that I had a special passion for that. But the more pregnant moms I saw, the more I was like, I love this. So I wanted to do the best job that I could with them. So I went and got a special certification for what's called Webster technique, which checks a few extra things on the pelvis that's specific to pregnant women, and it just helps make sure that everything you're doing is very honoring of what's going on when you're pregnant versus when you're not, right? Because there's a lot of different shifts and things that happen in your pelvis. There's hormones that are released that make your body looser, so you have to be more careful with certain things that you do. So I did that, and then after I had my son, I went on it was supposed to be 4.5-month maternity leave, but I quit my old job, and then I got offered a job close to home. It was like a 10-minute walk, which was awesome, and a couple months before that, I had decided, we brought Jude up here to visit my in-laws. We were living in Seattle at the time, and we brought him up here to visit my husband's parents. We had no intention of moving here at all.
We've heard this before.
I love it. I was going to open my own practice in Seattle. That was my plan. I was going to go back to my old job after maternity leave. You know how the universe will get you, right? You're like, this is what I'm going to do. Then, yeah. So we brought him up here, and we were visiting for a week. And the whole time, this little voice in my head was like, you have to move to Alaska. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm opening my practice in Seattle. I have tons of patients there. It's going to be, and my family's in Washington. And then on the last day, as we were getting ready to leave, I was making coffee at my in-laws' house, and I was getting teary-eyed. And I'm not even from here, So when we got home, and I didn't mention this to my husband at all, he's from here, and he's always wanted to come back, right? So I'm like, don't say it to him unless you're sure. Exactly. So we got home, and as soon as we put our son to bed after, getting home from the airport and everything, I was like, hey, I think we should move to Alaska. And his eyes just, lit up, and he was like, I think so too. And so it took 6 months of planning. He's a lawyer. He had to get his license up here. He had to get a job. I had to get my licensure, lots of stuff. We had to move. We had just bought a house in Seattle in 2022.
Oh my God.
Right? So I was 4 months postpartum too, and I spent sleepless nights just crying about how I was going to make this decision. I was like, what are we going to do? It just, at the time, it just felt like the biggest decision of my life, right? And so, we decided to move, and it took 6 months of planning, and we moved here on February 2nd of, what year is it? 24? February 2nd of this year. So I've been here, it'll be a year in February.
Wow.
So, and...
it's your first winter.
Yes. So we bought a house. I'm staying positive about it. That's why we have all these stress relief techniques that we're going to talk about. We bought a house in Anchorage right next to my in-laws. We lived with them for 5 months before that. Luckily, we're all really close, and they're great. And then on October 10th, I finally opened up my own practice. So it's called Inner Limb Chiropractic.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's in a suite with mental health care providers, which is awesome. I just have a room in there, and everybody next to me is just super great and awesome. And I love my healing space. It just feels like this is what I'm meant to be doing. So, yeah. So that's kind of what brought me here. Like I've been saying, I've seen a ton of amazing things happen with chiropractic care with patients. One of the biggest things that I've seen has been stress relief. So I'm sure Amy can attest to this too. Sometimes patients will come in, and the front desk will come back and be like, oh, this person's so grumpy, Like, oh man, like, I wonder what's going on, 9 times out of 10, somebody will come in like that and they're just so dysregulated and grumpy, cranky, whatever you want to call it, tired, and they leave just lighter and happier and just so much better, So that's one of the coolest things about what we do. So sorry, hold on one second. I had a little note thing that I was going to go with. Do you have my papers per chance, Dawn?
My story. Yes, I did now.
Wow, you're trying to get me to do this without anything, huh?
Little surprise she had planned for you.
Like, try that. I'm just kidding.
Let's see if she can think on her feet.
Yeah, right? I'll do my best here.
About 25 minutes.
What was that?
About 25
Oh,
minutes.
I was just
Okay.
kidding. Yeah, don't worry. Okay, so raise your hand if you've ever felt stressed, ever. There we go. Okay, so I think this is a topic we can all relate to. So stress is the feeling of being like overwhelmed, anxious, frustrated, or afraid. It's a normal human experiences, and in some cases, it's really good, right? If you're getting chased by a tiger, or I guess to make it more modern, if you see somebody that looks like, they might do something to you, or you just get kind of a feeling that a situation's not good, you want stress so that you can get out of that situation, right? So the autonomic nervous system has 2 parts to it. What the autonomic nervous system does is it regulates the involuntary processes of your body. So heart rate, blood pressure, respiration, digestion, all these things that you don't even think about that your body just does. Okay, so the autonomic nervous system is part of that. It has 2 parts, sympathetic and parasympathetic. So sympathetic is that stress feeling. The sympathetic nervous system is when you're in fight or flight. Its main job is to increase your heart rate and your breathing rate so that you can move quickly and make decisions and get out of where you're at. So what it does is it increases your blood pressure, widens your pupils, narrows your blood vessels, decreases your digestive juices, and it improves your eyesight. Okay? The parasympathetic nervous system, that's kind of called the rest and digest. That one decreases your blood pressure, decreases your heart rate and your breathing rate, constricts your pupils, and it helps to relax the muscles that help you eliminate waste too. So the vagus nerve is one of the cranial nerves. There's 12 of those. That makes up 75% of your parasympathetic nervous system. So it plays a really big role. It does kind of everything we talked about before about what the parasympathetic nervous system does. So it increases digestion, slows your heart rate and your breathing, and kind of gets you more into that like rest and digest mode. It's really important to have balance between parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So things that can increase your vagus nerve activity and kind of get you into that rest and digest is chiropractic care, deep breathing, meditation, massage, and awe. So when you are like in awe of something, it kind of gets you into rest and digest, which is really cool. Have you guys ever like seen something beautiful or amazing and kind of forgotten all of little stressors of your life and just been able to kind of be in the moment? So recognizing beauty is really cool too. So when we sense a perceived threat, like a looming deadline or a huge bill to pay, we go into that kind of fight or flight sympathetic mode, and that releases adrenaline and cortisol. Like I said before, those can be life-saving in dangerous situations, but if those are continuously being released and your body's always in high gear, it's really hard on you. It's really hard on your systems. It can create physical symptoms like jaw pain, chronic headaches, tight muscles, sleep difficulties, high blood pressure, and mental health disorders. Chronic systemic inflammation is a really big part of that too, and that represents that dysregulation of your nervous system. So one major long-term effect of that chronic cortisol is it actually decreases your immune system function too. So if you guys can think of a time when you've been like really stressed or really busy and you've been like go, 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 and then the second that you calm down is when you get really sick, right? Can you guys think of times when that happens?
Oh, yeah.
It's because when you're in that chronic fight or flight, your immune system's not really working well. You know, it's just when you feel sick, it's because your immune system is fighting something. So when you have a runny nose, when you have a fever, that's your body's way of kicking, you know, whatever you have out of the way. When you're in that kind of sympathetic chronic fight or flight, you're not really working on that. You're just trying to survive. So, and people in general, do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say that if we get colds or those types of things, that may be a sign to us that we should look at how much stress that we have in our life, that's a symptom of like chronic mental stress that's just kind of staying with us?
Yeah, absolutely, Bobby. So it can kind of be like a vicious cycle or like a chicken and egg situation, right? So if you're in chronic fight or flight mode, you're also, because your immune system's not working well and you're in that wear or tear, you're more likely to get sick too, and you have a harder time fighting it. So absolutely. So looking at the environment and what's going on in your life is really important for sure. Yeah, good question. So people in general are more stressed these days too. The number of mental health diagnoses amongst people aged 35 to 44 went from 31% in 2019 to 45% in 2023. So that's a really big jump. In 2024, 43% of adults in the U.S. reported feeling more anxious than the previous year. This is up from 37% in 2023 and 32% in 2022. Even kids are more stressed these days. Between 2016 and 2020, so this is before the pandemic, the number of children ages 3 to 17 diagnosed with anxiety increased by 29%, and those with depression by 27%. So those are big numbers. We have a big problem that we need to work on. Some of those reasons for stress going up, the COVID-19 pandemic, the social isolation that went with that. I know you guys remember that. It kind of just feels like a bad nightmare at this point. I kind of spoke about how chronic cortisol messes with the immune system. The long-term stress from COVID-19 has increased chronic illnesses as well. So that kind of ties into that stress response. Another reason is political unrest. I know the country's been really divided and there have been things happening overseas as well. Another big one that I want to touch on a little bit more is social media. So social media, there's a lot of reasons why this has increased stress amongst people, especially like kids these days and teens. Social comparison is a big one. So if you see, super highly edited photos of other people online, you start to think more poorly about yourself, right? It can kind of impact your self-esteem and body image. Fear of missing out. Have you guys heard of FOMO? The FOMO. So if you're at home and you're seeing other people's highlight reels, of them like on vacation or doing something awesome, you can kind of have internal thoughts of like, oh, I should be doing that too. I'm at home, and that can make you feel bad too instead of being in the present. Cyberbullying is really big. It can kind of be a breeding ground for online harassment. I'm sure you guys have seen on Facebook and whatnot when people just get into fights over things, right? Like, it's very unlikely that those people would have those conversations to each other, right? Like, it's a lot easier for people to cyberbully because they're hiding behind a screen and they're not, saying these things out loud. So, negative content exposure is another big one. So, it's really easy to access disturbing news, violence, graphic content on social media. That can contribute a lot to stress and anxiety as well. So some social media platforms also can create addiction-like behavior. So with likes and notifications, that triggers dopamine release in the brain, which can make you addicted to it. It's a good feeling to have dopamine, and so if you keep getting likes and things and checking for that, it can really impact your mental health too. Another thing is sleep disruption. So using social media before bed will interfere with sleep patterns due to blue light emission from screens. Sleep is really important for stress relief, right? And if you're stressed, it's hard to sleep, and vice versa. It kind of goes into another one of those chicken and the egg situations. You want to sleep so that you can be more well. If you're not sleeping well, it's harder to be well. So that blue light emission is a big one. Personal note here, this is a big goal I have for this month because, like I told you guys, I have a toddler. I just opened my business. I'm slowly phasing out of another job that I have right now too. And the easiest time to get anything done with a toddler is while he's sleeping. I'm sure some of you guys can relate to that. So I've been like on my laptop, at 9 p.m. trying to like get some work things done, and then I end up staying up till midnight, and then my toddler wakes me up at 6 a.m. and I'm like, okay, I need to stop. So that's a big goal that I have for December is like not working on my computer at night or using paper, that sort of thing instead. So it really makes a big difference. And then one of the other big ones is it reduces real world interaction. So if you're on social media all the time, kind of being entertained by that or at home looking at that, it reduces the face-to-face interactions, which is really important. That community connectedness and talking to people in person is so important for our souls and for our mental health. And, humans are really meant to be a tribe, not to be at home on the phone, looking at videos of other people. So reducing that, like, face-to-face can lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness. So I know that was a lot of heavy stuff about why we are stressed. So we can talk now about how to help manage that and kind of on a more positive note. So chiropractic care can be a really powerful tool for managing the physical symptoms of stress and improving mental well-being. So what we check as chiropractors is what we call subluxation, kind of a fancy big word. It basically means spinal misalignments. So your brain and your body are connected, and it all runs through your spine. So that's your nervous system that's housed in there. When your spine isn't moving properly, it puts pressure on the nerves that come out of there, and it can affect all of those functions that we talked about earlier. So your heart rate, your breathing, your digestion, all these things that help you regulate stress. So if your body's not able to send those good nerve impulses and that good communication, it's going to have a really hard time regulating itself and being able to handle stress. So that's a big way that chiropractic care can help with that. Chiropractic care stimulates the vagus nerve. So it puts you into fight or flight, the opposite, puts you into rest and digest mode. So kind of what I touched on earlier, seeing patients come in that are super, like cranky or high strung or just a lot of anxiety, 9 times out of 10, maybe even more than that, they'll leave way more calm and better. And people sometimes don't even want to get up, when it's time to leave. So I give them as much time as possible, but sometimes I'm like, all right, like, have another patient come in, gotta go. So it can just really put you into a more relaxed state. That in turn can help you have better sleep quality. And when you're sleeping better, that helps you manage stress as well. So a lot of people think chiropractic care is only for pain management and that you should only go if you have neck or back pain or tightness or that sort of thing. But it's really helpful with overall wellness, nervous system regulation, and function. So you don't want to go just when you have pain. You don't want to wait until your body's at that level. Pain is kind of one of the last symptoms that you'll get when you have dysfunction in your spine. Our bodies are so good at adapting that we can take a lot before we start to feel pain. Our bodies don't want us to be in pain, So chiropractic care, of course, will help with pain, but it also just helps with your overall function and well-being and wellness in general. So Another cool thing that it does is when the spine is moving better, it reduces your muscle tension as well. And the muscles that attach to the spine start to relax because your spine is moving better. So you can't have happy muscles when the spot that they attach isn't happy, if that makes sense. It's kind of, again, a chicken and the egg situation there. So as muscle tension is relieved too, positive hormones like oxytocin are released. And that can help you create a sense of well-being and ultimately reduce stress levels too. So there's a few different avenues of how it can help you, which is really cool. So by reducing the physical symptoms of stress, promoting relaxation, and enhancing the immune system, chiropractic adjustments can play a significant role in stress management. During times of high stress is one of the best times to get more care. It's hard because those are usually the times that you're the most busy, right? You're like, oh, I don't have time to do this. But chiropractic adjustments usually only take about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the style and what's done there. And it can just help you so much to be able to deal with more stress, to be able to sleep better, and to regulate your nervous system. It's a lot harder to go through life with a dysregulated nervous system than it is to go through one that is connected and functioning well and able to adapt to different things that are thrown at it. We can't get rid of all of life stressors. That's impossible. We can just try to prepare ourselves for the journey and prepare ourselves for the road versus trying to completely fix the road for ourselves, if that makes sense. So that's a big reason that I'm super passionate about chiropractic care. I did want to talk about other tools for stress management too, just on the day-to-day things you can do. One of the biggest ones, and I think this is a great group to talk to about this, is believing in manifesting the life that you want for yourself and believing that what you want wants you back. So I always kind of keep that in my mind, like whatever you want, it wants you to, if it's right, you know. So kind of like with me moving to Alaska, you know, I didn't really know that I wanted that. And then once that seed kind of got in there, I was like, okay, like I do want that, you know. So it kind of like wanted me back without me realizing, if that makes sense. I see clues of this all the time. One of the things is like anytime I see money, even if it's like a penny, I pick it up and I say, thank you, universe. I picked up this really dirty penny at SeaTac on the bathroom floor. And the next day I found $40. I kid you not. So I feel like if we're just, you know, realizing things that the universe is giving us and being present and grateful for everything, it gives you more of that, you know. And the universe too, I feel like, gives us signs of if we need signs for whether we're choosing the right path and things like that. If we look for them, we can find signs in the universe. So another one with that, while I was trying to make this decision about whether to move to Alaska, I literally was like, universe, give me a sign. And an Alaska Airlines plane. So we cannot get more clear than that. Granted, we lived close to the airport, but I couldn't help but like give myself a chuckle with that one. So yeah, so the universe gives us signs like that all the time. We just have to pay attention and be open to it. Another thing that's really helpful is exercise. I think we all know that. Regular physical activity improves the circulation and production of endorphins, which is your body's like feel-good transmitters. So it just makes you feel better in that regard. And if you tire yourself out during the day, it can help you get better sleep too. So healthy eating habits helps with stress too. Foods rich in vitamin C, magnesium, and omega-3 fatty acids can be really helpful too, just with production of the right neurotransmitters and helping you with the overproduction of cortisol. So taking turmeric is really good too. On a side note, that just helps with your body's overall inflammation. Turmeric, fish oil, those sorts of things are just really good for your overall wellness, just natural ways to kind of help your body regulate. Mindfulness practices. I know this is a big group that is so good with that. Meditation is so good for you. Deep breathing, yoga, all of those calm the mind and help you reduce stress. If you keep up with those two, it can make you more resilient to stress over time, kind of like chiropractic care can. So pretty cool. Breathing exercises too. So there's a couple that I want to do with you guys. One of them, let me turn this to a better, oh, here we go. There we go. That's a more relaxing image. So one of the first ones is called box breathing. Have you guys ever heard of box breathing?
No.
Yeah. No? Okay. Well, it's really cool. I've been doing it a lot lately with the, opening my practice and trying to just stay focused and everything. With box breathing, it helps to stimulate your vagus nerve, and it focuses your brain so much on the breathing that it's hard to stress out about other things. What you do, I'll demo it, and then we'll do a couple together. So first, you take a really deep breath in, and then you force air in at the end, and then you let it out really slowly. So it kind of looks like that. So you fill your lungs up as much as you can, and then you force in a little bit more. Okay? So let's do like 10 of those together. Ready? So really deep breath in. Give it that little push at the end. And breathe out slowly. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And breathe in. Good. Force a little more. And out. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. And in. And deep. And out. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's do 2 more of those. Deep breath in. Force them in. And 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This will be the last one. Deep breath in. And force it in. And 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Awesome. So I don't know about you guys, but that already made me feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
I was kind of doing that by myself during that meditation before the speech. So,
And did you call that box, B-O-X breathing?
BOX, yeah, box breathing.
Okay, I know a different breathing system for box.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I wonder.
I'll tell you about it after. But,
Yeah, okay. Well, hopefully I gave it the right name, but yeah, that's just one of the breathing exercises. Talk to me after, though.
Okay.
Okay.
Where's the vagus nerve? I've forgotten.
The vagus nerve, so it's one of the cranial nerves. It comes out of your brain and goes down into your heart, actually.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it comes down.
Yeah, it's one of the cranial nerves. So I believe it's located in the brainstem, right? Because it does
Brainstem.
reflexes
Does
and
it
whatnot.
travel
So
in the spinal column, Morgan, or
No,
beside it?
it comes out this way along the sternal.
yeah, it's along
like a
it's
split
along
nerve.
the SEM muscle, which is like a big, thick one right there. So it doesn't go along the spine. It kind of comes out of the brainstem along the side and goes down and innervates like the heart and
So
the
it's
lungs.
like a Y.
Vegas is Latin for wander. That nerve
Oh.
wanders all through the
Yeah, love that. Yeah.
system.
Yeah, so
Is that why it gives you a head rush when you do the box breathing?
it can be, yeah, because it changes your physiology with and the vagus nerve is what's innervating your heart and lungs, so it definitely can be. Yeah, and just getting that kind of blood flow to the brain versus to the rest of your limbs, your extremities. Yeah. Another one is 4-7-8 breathing. Have you guys heard of that? Yeah, so that's another really good one that you can do. Where you breathe in for a count of 4, you hold for 7, and then you breathe out for 8. Really good one too. Same kind of thing. Stimulates the vagus nerve, kind of breaks you into more of that rest and digest. Another one is diaphragmatic breathing. So a lot of times when you're in chronic fight or flight, you'll kind of breathe with like your chest, and your shoulders will be all tight, and you're kind of just, this is where all the air is going. Trying to breathe into your belly and really expanding your lungs all the way down is really, really helpful too for kind of engaging that parasympathetic. So if you guys want to try this with me, take a really deep breath in and just imagine you're directing that all the way down to your belly button and kind of filling up the bottom parts of your lungs. Yeah, and you can do a few on your own there. Sometimes it's helpful to put your hand on your belly too and just feel that expansion. Cool thing about that is it also helps to relax your shoulders. So, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times when we're in chronic fight or flight stress mode, this is happening, whether we realize it or not. So, another really helpful thing is a gratitude list. So, every night before bed, I write down 5 things that I'm grateful for, and it is so helpful to write your thoughts down and kind of think about what you have in your life that to be thankful for despite the stressful things going on. So being able to just kind of sit down and think about that. Sometimes my gratitude list is really general, you know, like I'm very grateful for a home and to have food, and sometimes it's really specific, like my husband did the laundry today. So usually when he's on the list, it's always chores. I've noticed. So that's something I'm trying to improve on too. It's kind of funny. Another thing is like if you feel like you must worry, starting a worry timer and giving yourself a certain amount of time to worry can be so helpful. So instead of ruminating and thinking about something you can't change for hours at a time, if you just give yourself 5 minutes and you say, I'm going to worry about this for 5 minutes, and you just sit there and you just think about it and just worry as much as you want, and then you're like, once this 5 minutes is done, I'm done. I'm not thinking about it. So that is something that can be really helpful. The best way to kind of end that worry too is to do something that takes a lot of your attention right after. So maybe calling a loved one or doing a sport that you love, something, puzzles, whatever you like to do that kind of makes it so you're not thinking as much in your conscious mind about things. That's a good way to like stop once you hit the worry timer, because it's easy to say that you're going to stop, and then, you know, if you're just hanging out and sitting at home, like it's easy to start again. So that's another one. Helping others can be super helpful as well with stress management. So that really helps you to kind of shift the focus away from yourself and onto the needs of others. This can help you appreciate the positives in your life and make you feel more of a sense of self-worth too. Being able to help others and realize that like none of us are in this alone. You know, everybody has their own things that they're dealing with. You never know what somebody's like hiding under the surface, and just trying to be there for others, being a good friend, volunteering, doing things like that is naturally going to boost your feel-good feelings and get you kind of less stressed as well. So one more kind of funny stress relief thing that I do personally that's been really helpful for me. So I learned this from a therapist that I had spoken with. So before I got pregnant with my baby, I had a miscarriage, and that was really, really hard. I'm a healthy person. I work out. I get care. You know, it's like, it's not gonna happen to me. And it did, as you know, it can happen to anybody. And I was lucky enough to get pregnant, 3 months after that. But I was super anxious during the pregnancy. Even as I kept hitting milestones, it was like, oh man, I'm so worried something's going to go wrong. And so I talked to a therapist, I did meditation, I did a lot of stuff. And 2 of the coolest things my therapist told me, one of them is when you have thoughts that aren't serving you, that you know aren't coming from the real you, you can think about them kind of as like clouds in the sky that are floating by. So you don't have to like fixate on them and try to uncover why you're having these thoughts. You just notice them and just let them go, So I practice that still now with thoughts that I have that I know are done, not great thoughts that are just kind of coming from that like ego and that defensive mind, I just look and I'm like, yeah, okay, interesting, and I try to just let it go versus like kind of diving into it. The other thing that I do is I gave a character to my my thoughts that aren't serving me as well. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen SpongeBob. Yeah. So there's a character named Patrick Star who is just so dumb. And he has this voice that's like, like, and so now anytime I have thoughts that I know aren't kind of coming from the real me, I change them to his voice, and then they don't matter as much to me, you know? So like with opening my practice, one of the thoughts were like, you should just be an associate forever, no one wants to come see you, and blah, blah, blah. And when I change it to his voice, I'm like, no, that's stupid. Like, of course I'm gonna do great, you know? So that's another thing that has been really helpful for me with that. Does anybody else have any like funny or different like stress management things that they do that they want to share?
I have similar ones to you, other than the dark thoughts. There's this song Ram Dass does called Dark Thoughts, and he says when a dark thought comes, you love it. You know, you love your dark thought and let it move on.
Oh,
And I've been doing that a lot. And then the same thing with assigning a person, like shame, guilt, all these signs like identity, right? Shame, like the young girl that spilled the milk, and then I sit and talk to her about it. So how do you feel about, if I'm feeling shame about something, I put a picture with her, so it's not me, and I'm talking to her and saying, tell me how that made you feel. Why do you feel shame? And let her explain it to me, and then we unattach to it and move on.
Oh,
Those are the two things that I do.
I
Yeah.
really like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Technically, when you're worried about something, you're actually manifesting it.
Mm.
Because as you
That's a
think about
good
it,
point.
those thoughts that you're sending out are
Oh.
coming back to you.
You're so right.
So if you find a different way to do it, like in some of my meditations, I'll have them gather up these thoughts as soon as they come in
Yeah.
and squeeze them and change them into positive energy and think about something that you're going to do. And you notice you're stressing out about something, that's just energy. So if you squeeze it down, you can change that energy into something that's productive, like getting my husband to do the laundry.
I love that. That's a really good point. Like, you're right. Like, the energy that you put out is kind of what you get back, for sure. Go ahead.
Well, of course, dancing. That's
Yes.
what I do.
Yes, you're so right. Yeah. Yeah, dancing for sure. That exercise and that kind of getting you out of that, like, that mindset. You're so right.
Well, and it's good for the whole body too. It's emotional, mental, spiritual, physical. You get the whole full deals.
Totally. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about fasting.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments about that?
Yeah, so, do you mean like if it's good to do or?
Yeah, just what have you found that seems to be helpful, especially for stress?
Yeah, so fasting can be really helpful too with kind of resetting your nervous system. I don't recommend it for everyone. Some people have different, reasons why that wouldn't be good. Sometimes thyroid or metabolism issues can be a reason not to. Blood pressure, blood sugar problems. I was a big fan of intermittent fasting, where I wouldn't eat for like 12 hours. I think maybe it was longer than that.
16.
16. Yeah. I'm like, 12 hours isn't that long. I'm like, I wouldn't eat for 2 hours. So so I did that for years, and it was really helpful for like mental clarity and everything too. But once I was pregnant and then now I'm nursing, I just cannot do that. If I go more than like 3 hours, I'm like, I'm gonna faint. So I think it can be really helpful, but I don't have like a blanket statement for everybody about that. I think I would need to meet the person, talk to them, know their health history before I recommend it or didn't recommend it. That's a good question. Yeah. Go ahead.
One thing I've had to do with traffic is just bless you. Bless you.
That's
And
so
it works.
smart. Yeah.
It works. It just lets it go.
I'm like you, traffic, especially when we were in Seattle. Anchorage is so much better.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, when people complain about traffic here, I'm like, what are you talking about?
I know.
But you know what
No
where you're at.
comparison.
So yeah. But in Seattle, and especially in the Bay Area where I went to chiropractic school, traffic would be so bad. I would be like gripping the, but yeah, being able to just, like you said, just kind of relax and try to give love to people versus that anger also when people are driving recklessly, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. And like maybe the wife is giving birth in the scene. Maybe something bad happened, or you know, I try to just think. I think about that all the time. I don't know why. I'm sure there's not that many people that are giving birth in the car, but that's kind of my go-to, and it really helps me. Yeah. So that being said, I'm not sure how we're
Were you
doing.
going to do a demonstration?
Yes, I
Yeah.
was going to show you guys what an adjustment looks like. Dr. Amy and I take care of each other. Sometimes we became friends in August, and it's just been like an awesome friendship. We're just connected a lot. But she so kindly decided she is okay to be a patient today to kind of show you guys like what a treatment session would look like. So, do you want to come on?
You can ask how many people in here actually do get chiropractic care versus not getting
Yeah, that's
care,
a
or
good
never have
question.
had
How
that.
many people are like under care?
So
Yeah.
is that
Okay,
the
good
ones
question.
that get it or do not get it? The ones that
Get
The
it.
ones that get it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. All right, so this table's really cool. It's a portable table. I have like a heftier one in my office, but this table's been with me to India, into Mexico. It only weighs 12 pounds.
Wow.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Amy can let us know how comfortable it is out there.
Oh yeah, it's pretty comfortable.
You probably use it as your little camping table.
That's a good idea.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
Multi-purpose.
never thought for your toddler. You know, if you fall off on it.
Yeah, my toddler loves laying down on the table too. Okay, so let me get my little face
My
paper.
toddler did too. Now he's 14.
Oh,
Can't even get him on the
I
table.
cannot believe you have a 14-year-old. It's crazy. All right, so how are you feeling right now? To start out.
Well, we kind of already addressed this yesterday, but I'm still having that arm thing.
How about your stress levels and everything?
I'm tired. I'm really tired, and I feel like after you give me this adjustment, I may not be able to drive home. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's give Amy
Well,
a
we
ride.
have that. You could stay in our massage bed in there. And
Oh,
just
that's a good idea.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'll kind of walk you through like a little bit of what I'm doing. Too, it'll be hard to kind of fully tell you, because it kind of comes from like touch and intuition and years of doing it. But I always kind of check in first with the patient's ankles and just the tone of the Achilles tendons on either side. I also look at leg length. So Amy's left leg is a little bit shorter than her right. And now I'm checking the resistance here. So that right leg goes a little bit closer than that left leg does. That can be coming from the lower back up here. So I'm palpating, pressing in here. I'm looking for tonal changes and kind of like the springiness of the joint as well. Yeah, so it's really tight right there. A lot of tension in the upper back too, especially over here.
Let it go, Amy,
Let it go. Let it go. So I always like to get familiar with people's nervous systems and their bodies and kind of like start a conversation before I just start popping things and getting in there. It helps me kind of feel deeper what's going on and kind of already kind of getting her more into kind of that parasympathetic rest and digest mode.
It's also developing trust with the body,
Exactly, yeah.
Hmm.
So one thing too that's a little bit different about what I do is I do a little bit of soft tissue work too, which is muscle work. I feel like that helps people to be more ready to receive an adjustment and it helps them to hold it longer. So one of the things I'm going to do now is a little bit of hip stuff in here. This can be kind of tender, but it can feel pretty good too. I'm working on the glutes and the piriformis muscle in here. This can be a big cause of sciatica. if it's tight for a long time. So, you doing okay? Side.
So what technique were you trained in? As an example, there's the Palmer technique.
Yeah, so the Palmer technique is kind of the basis of all of chiropractic. So the Palmer's founded chiropractic, and that's like diversified technique. And I'm trained in that and toggle, and there's a lot of different techniques, as you know. I kind of use different ones as needed on the patient. Yeah, so diversified manual adjusting is what I like to do the most. But I use like an arthro stim sometimes. There's patients that don't like having cracks and whatnot.
Rack 'em and crack 'em.
So,
The sound effects is pretty.
yeah, so that sound that you hear is from pressure changes in the joint. It's not like bones hitting each other or anything like that. And it's what happens when that energy is kind of put into the body, you know. So a lot of people love that feeling, and it's very productive, you know, with freeing up that joint. But I never force people to have it, you know, have that kind of style if that's not what they want. So that's why I have other tools too. Okay, let's have you lay on your side facing me. Oh, like you're taking a nap.
Yeah, I was almost there.
So I'm going to adjust Amy's lower back first. This table's like a little slippery, but we don't slide on out here. So I'm going to be kind of rolling her here. And then perfect. Okay, and we'll have you flip the face that way.
How is it?
So it's kind of did you? So you had kind of mentioned earlier that like thoughts are energy and everything's energy, and when I'm adjusting people, I don't feel like it's me healing them. It's me helping give the energy for them to heal their own bodies and to remove restrictions, so your body can heal itself. So that's kind of a cool part of, you know, what we do. Our bodies are incredibly capable of healing if given the right tools. So another one. Good. Okay, let's have you lay on your back, please. So I'm gonna get in between the shoulder blades next.
My hair is just move it if you need to.
No, you're totally fine. Yeah, it is beautiful. Okay, so big hug here. So now I'm gonna adjust right in there. There's a few different ways to do this. Sometimes I adjust it when patients are face down too. It just kind of depends on what it feels like they need at that time. So my arm can go under here. Yeah. Big breath in. All the way out. Wiggle your toes. Oh! Good. One word here. You ready? Yeah. Okay. And big breath in. All the way out. Good. And you can relax the arms there. So another cool thing.
I'm living vicariously.
Another cool thing about that adjustment, so we were talking about like diaphragmatic breathing. Having that area move better, all of your ribs attach there. So if that's really fixated, it's a lot harder to take deep breaths and to get into that diaphragmatic breathing. That's something a lot of patients report after getting adjusted, especially if it's been the first time or it's been a long time, is that they're able to breathe better and they just feel lighter. So that's a really cool thing that we get to witness a lot. So, yeah. All right, so we'll see what's going on in here. You can back there. Should have brought a yoga mat or something. Okay. Right there. This is better than yesterday though. Just a little bit.
Do you want me to hold the table?
Sure. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
There we go. Thank you. Is that okay in your back?
Oh,
You did good. Okay, you got good form over there. Here. Okay, drop that left shoulder.
Ooh,
Nice one.
baby.
Oh.
It says anticipation.
Let's have you lay face down. Thank you. So I like to go back and kind of check the work that we did. So I'm going to check her Achilles tendons again and that leg length. And her legs have evened out quite a bit. And there's less tension there. I'm going to circle back over here. Oh yeah. So one thing that I check too is I call it like a wave, where you can kind of wiggle the sacral area, and that sends just a wave of like energy and motion kind of up the spine, and you can feel each segment moving well or not well, and kind of feel it go through. So I like to check that at the end too, and it feels like it's making it up here really, really good. So one more soft tissue thing I want to do. Let's have you seated, facing everybody, if you don't mind. We're going to work on the traps and the shoulders a little bit too. We want to face the other way. Just kidding.
She knows what's coming.
So stress can really, really lock into our shoulders up in here too. So that's something I like to work on as needed. So I'm going to press in here and borrow your arm from you. Let me know if it's too much, okay?
Mm.
I know Amy's always really tough.
She's a badass.
She is. Yeah, so I like to work muscles kind of through their range of motion as I'm digging into tight spots. Because as the muscle's stretching underneath a pressure point, it doesn't really have anywhere to go except to relax. So that's why you see some of these like arm motions in here. This side too. Right there. Oh, I know. You okay? Keep breathing. Good.
We're breathing for you.
Yes, you got it. You got lots of moral support. But yeah, tell me if it's too much. Okay, I know you will. So cool thing about the neck and upper back too. We were talking earlier about how everything's really connected. You have a bundle of nerves that comes out of the lower part of your neck called the brachial plexus, which goes all the way down to your hands. So sometimes people will come in with wrist pain or carpal tunnel syndrome, and that's kind of what they think it's coming from, is the wrists or the elbows or the hands. And we start working on the neck and the upper back, and the wrist pain goes away. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
we, I check like wrists, ankles, any movable joint too. So I usually still check the area that's painful, because that can help it get better faster as well. Kind of like peeling back onion layers, you know? Anything that could be part of what's going on is what I address. So really just look at the body as a whole versus like separate pieces, if that makes sense. Okay, almost done. You okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 2 and 1. Awesome. Yeah. So that's kind of what a session
Wow,
will be.
very good.
Looks like.
Let's give her a hand.
And you were worried about filling up an hour.
Oh, I know. Did I go over? Gosh. I stole my notes, so.
I know. Wow, that was awesome.
That
Well, so Amy's, Morgan is gonna, Amy will probably stay around too. She'll stay around afterwards so we can visit with her and find out a little bit more where her practice is and what she, ask her questions and that kind of thing, so.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Awesome.
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
It sounds exactly like the kind of healing groups that we want to attract too in our
Yes.
new community.
I'm going to tell patients about here
Yeah.
too. This place is awesome, so.